As you can tell, Pastor Luke's not here. It's me today. You're stuck with me today. If anybody wants to leave, you can. I wasn't planning on starting off this way, but I wanted to let you in on a little bit of what happened earlier, actually, before we started anything. Is Miss Penny is usually very kind, and she comes in and prays with Luke in the morning, and she came in and did the same thing with me this morning. And she asked me if I had any prayer requests, and of course I always have prayer requests. I'm never empty on that. But one of my prayer requests was that every time that I write a sermon, I always feel like that I'm bringing the bad news. You know, everybody always wants to say that it's the good news, and it is. It's very good news. But I always feel like every time I get up here, all my sermons are telling everybody how bad we are and how troubling things are and all this stuff. But when we really think about it, we are sinners, and there's sin in this world, and we'll get to that more here soon. But I just wanted to let you guys know that as I write these things, it weighs heavy on my heart, that I feel like that's all I bring is negative news. But where is the good without the bad? You know, when you really think about it. So, and I told her, I said, I wish that some of these things that I've written down and that we'll talk about today, I wish that I knew them earlier in life as a younger man. And not to say that I would really probably change the path that I've been on, but it probably would have made me a better person earlier on in my life and put me on a different path if I would have known some of these things, even that I've preached on in the past. So with that being said, I just kind of wanted to throw that thank you out to her, that she starts my morning out with a nice prayer. So today we are going to, please open your Bibles if you would. We're going to be talking about godlessness in the last days. And whenever I say the word last days, most people are thinking, well, we're going to go to Revelation. So, but we're not. We're actually in 2 Timothy, and we're going to be in chapter 3 today. And that's the title of this message, is Godlessness in the Last Days. So we'll read through it here. Starting out, I want to kind of give you an idea of where and when this is taking place. So we're in Rome, and the time period here is roughly 67 A.D. And this is all being written from a jail cell. And it is being written by Paul himself. And, of course, it's the inspired word of God coming to him. But that's where, of course, Luke is as well in Romans. And that, of course, is authored by Paul as well. So Paul has seen many jail cells in his time. And he has been brought from some of those jail cells by God's own power. But what we have here is if you've read 2 Timothy, we have Paul coming to the realization that his time is near. His time is near. His death is coming. And you find that in the 4th chapter, which I won't cover a whole lot, but it's when near the end here in verse, I believe it's 8. Anyways, to paraphrase it here, he says that I fought the good fight, finished the race. So he's coming to the idea that my time has come. This is going to be the last time that I've been placed in jail. They're going to pull me out, and I'm going to be a martyr for Christ. And eventually that does happen. So let's read through verses in 2 Timothy chapter 3. We're going to read through verses 1 through 9, and there's a lot to get in here. So we'll read through it, and then we'll break it down a little bit. So verse 1, but understand this, that in the last days there will come times of difficulty. For people will be lovers of self, lovers of money, proud, arrogant, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, heartless, unappeasable, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not loving good, treacherous, reckless, swollen with conceit, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, and having the appearance of godliness, but denying its power. And then it goes on to say, avoid such people, for among them are those who creep into households and capture weak women, burdened with sins and led astray by various passions, always learning and never able to arrive at a knowledge of the truth. Just as Jannes and Jambres opposed Moses, so these men also opposed the truth. Men corrupted in mind and disqualified regarding the faith, but they will not get very far, for their folly will be plain to all, as was that of those two men. Now, I know as you go down through here, we probably don't know who Jannes and Jambres are. I didn't know either until I started doing some research, but we'll get into that. So there's maybe some new names to you if you're not familiar. So where we start off here in the first verse, but understand this, that in the last days, and a lot of people may think that in the last days, we're thinking like, when is that? When are the last days that he is speaking of? And there are different. There are people that differ in the time frame of that. Some would even say that it hasn't happened yet, that these last days, but from what I gathered from all of my studies, it's that the last days began with Christ's death and his resurrection, and when he ascended to heaven. Those are the last days. And the analogy that was given, which actually helped it was dumbed down for me, if you will, was that in time that it was running straight forward toward the last days. And then as it got closer and Christ was crucified and then he was resurrected, it changed patterns. And now it goes right alongside, waiting for Christ's return, his second coming. And that could happen at any point in time. As I make you guys nervous that I'm going to possibly step off the stage here. And that's the way you should feel, is that it's running parallel, and that it could happen at any point in time. So just think of it that way. It was, like I said, dumbed down a little bit for me, but that made sense. I'm a visual learner, and to see them put it that way, it made a whole lot of sense for me. So to understand that we are in the last days right now, and you may think that, well, that was a long time ago, so these last days are being stretched out, but it could be right now. It didn't happen. Or we could go on, it could be way after we are, passed away. So just think of it that way, but we always want to be ready for that time, of course. We always want to be ready. The next part here that it mentions after the last days is there will come times of difficulty. And I think that word difficulty is very, it's kind of vanilla in the way that it describes it, because there's a lot of translations, and there are words that we don't really use today in our common just everyday talk. And those translations are words like perilous. I can't remember the last time I used the word perilous. Laborious, perplexing, distress, fierce. Some of those words I can't ever remember using them in a normal sentence, but these are the translations. So it's difficulty is a very mild way of putting it when you translate it in some of these ways, like the word perilous. I think it's something pretty bad when I think that it's perilous. But the way that this is described is actually the word like fierce. There are other other mentions of this, and through my research, I was able to actually find that it's mentioned in a couple different spots. It's the same story. But given in two different accounts. And the first one, I'm going to read briefly. Actually, I'm sorry, Andrew, if I gave you I'm not going to read all the way through Luke here, but if you would flip to change pages to Luke chapter 8, this is going to be starting in verse 26. Verse 26. And it's going to be talking about the demon-possessed man. And I'm going to read briefly through this. And I remember reading this, just to give you a little bit of a story here. I remember reading through this and thinking, what a horror story. Like, this was scary to me when I first read it. And I can't really tell you that whether or not I was I guess I could say full believer at the time. But when I read it, angels and demons are something that fascinate just about everybody. And when I read this, it was scary to me. It really was. And it's not even put into, a great form to where it really draws a great, beautiful picture for you here to where I can see everything. So it was up to my own mind to fill in the blanks of what this really, really looked like. So we'll read a little bit here in Luke, and then I'm going to flip over to the one that I think probably was a little bit more detailed and scared me the most. But Jesus heals a man with a demon. Then they sailed to the country of I'm going to butcher this name here, Grasnes, which is opposite Galilee. When Jesus had stepped out on land, there met him a man from the city who had demons. For a long time he had worn no clothes, and he had not lived in a house, but among the tombs. And I'm going to stop there. So that kind of paints us a little bit of a picture. A man with demons. That's all we're described as. A man with demons. So what that looks like to you may be different than what it looks like to somebody else, but it's pretty horrifying to me. Plus he had no clothes on. So flip over to, this is going to be in Matthew chapter 8. 28. So it's actually relatively very, very close to each other in the scripture here. So, and this one is titled, Jesus heals two men with demons. And when he came to the other side of the country of Gadarenes, I'm going to butcher that name there. Two demon-possessed men met him, coming out of the tombs. And here's where we get to this word, so fierce that no one could pass that way. And I want you to picture that in your head, that it was so fierce. These men were so fierce that no one could pass that way. Now, I don't want what kind of area this is, but they talk about being amongst the tombs, so I'm assuming it was some sort of cemetery, graveyard, area that is off. It's not like it's right in the middle of the city, and that no one wanted to go there because these men were there, and their demons were with them. So they were so fierce that no one could pass that way. And behold, they cried out, "What have you to do with us, O Son of God?" So they immediately knew. They immediately knew who they were in the presence of. And this part's interesting here too, because we're talking about the last days. Have you come here to torment us before the time? Before what time? These demons are asking, have you come to torment us before the time? Even these demons knew. Not only did they know Jesus Christ, but they knew that there was going to be a time, the end of days, the end times when it was going to come. So I just find that amazing. That just blew me away when I read that. And then I read my commentary here in my Bible, and that's what it described. It's just amazing to me that so many of us, even the demons, know who Christ is, and there are some out there that don't. Even the demons know that there is going to be an end time, and that Jesus Christ will come back. They know that, and they fear that. So getting away from the demon-possessed men. If you want to go a little bit further and have a good horror story there, read a little bit further in it, and it's I'm telling you, it's intense by no means. It's crazy. So, my question to you is if that scares these demons, because demons, of course, scare me by no means do I think they have any power over me. Do I think that they affect my life in some way? Yes. We won't get too deep into that, but um, what I want to ask you is does the coming of Christ, the second coming of Christ, does that scare you? Does that scare you when you really, really think about it? Um, I know that I've struggled with that in my own life of thinking, I don't want to die. Um, and then there's a point in my life where I got to the realization that I'm ready. I'm ready for the second coming. I want Christ to come back. If it happened now, that's great. And coming to that realization is just so freeing. It's amazing to have that feeling in your life that you want it to be done. I'll live here, and I'll proclaim your word, and I'll glorify your name, Father, as long as you have me here doing your work. But I'm ready for you. I'm ready for you to come back, because we are in the end days, and these times are looking very, very bad. So, and as we get into that, so I'll go through the list here, which starts in verse 2, and I'm going to try not to go too awful long into all of these, but we're going to try to break some of them down. Some of them I'll speed over, and then some of them will get a little bit more in depth too. Just to give you a little bit of a background, those of you who don't know me, I'm a police detective. I'm a detective with the Parkersburg Police Department here locally. So some of this stuff, the analogies I'll be giving are police related, but in my 17 years in law enforcement, I've seen things, I've done things, and a lot of that I'll use in here to give my idea of what some of these verses mean. So the first one we get into is when all these descriptors is lovers of self. Lovers of self is the first one that we come to. And what really needs to be said, about this, lovers of self? So we're all lovers of ourself. We're sinners. So what has happened here is that over time, our world has become more of, I feel, lovers of self. As we go back in time, of course, we've all been lovers of self, all from the beginning, from Adam and Eve. That right there in itself was a lover of self. They wanted to know what God knew. They wanted to be essentially. God themselves said that's why they did what they did. They wanted more. They loved themselves, and so we see that from the very beginning. This is nothing new. I'm not saying that last week we all became lovers of ourselves, or in the past 100 years. This has always been a thing. Always been a thing. It's nothing new. But as I got to thinking about it and doing my studies, I think you guys can probably agree that never have I ever seen such a want and a desire. There are if you look at our school systems, sometimes there are whole curriculum is written around love of self, self-love. And I'm not, again, saying that there's anything wrong with loving yourself. We do a very, very, bang up job of that, too good of a job. But when we are told that is the answer, to love yourself more, that's all you need. If you're depressed, you need to love yourself more. If you have any type of issue, you just need to love yourself more. And that's not the answer. That's not the answer at all. But by no means am I saying you need to hate yourself. You don't need to hate yourself. We don't need to go from one end of the spectrum to the other. It's either love or hate. We need to be somewhere in the middle. I can't remember the exact verse, but we're to think of ourselves soberly. Think of ourselves soberly. I believe that's in Romans 12, which Luke will get to. Sorry to spoil that early, Luke. but I believe it's in Romans 12 where it talks of speaking or thinking of ourselves soberly. And what that means is that we don't need to think completely negative or completely positive about ourselves. What we need to do is think of what God says about us. Think about what God says about us. He says that we are made in his image and that we are wonderful, wonderful creatures. But he also says that from the womb we're sinners. So where does that leave us? That we need to understand both of those. We need to understand that we are a creation of God. We are made in his image, but we also need to understand that we're sinners from the womb. We are, we have twisted hearts, all of these things. So we need to take those two things and we need to meet in the middle with that, okay? And just be mindful of both of them. So, lovers of self, we realize that we're there. Next one is lovers of money. Lovers of money. So what I want you all to do is take all your money and get rid of it. I don't care what you do with it. No, just kidding. Lovers of money. This is a big one. This is a big one, especially when it comes to tithing. Lovers of money. People don't want to get rid of their money. You know, we want to. I've said that before every time, and I'll probably say it again. Knowing me is that we always want to hold on to those purse strings. You know, we'll give God everything that we've got from our family life, our work life. All of these things. You name them off. We'll hand them over. God, I can't handle it anymore. Take care of it for me. I lay it at your feet, but I'm going to hold on to my wallet. You know, I got that. I got that down pat. I know what to do with my money. So lovers of money, I'm not saying to get rid of all your riches and things like that, but when it becomes your idol, when it becomes your main focus, and it's in here and it's in here, and that's all you think about is more and more and more. I need a house, I need a car, I need a vacation, I need this, and this, and it's the next best thing, the new phone, whatever it is. When that becomes just like any other kind of idol in your life, you need to reevaluate yourself. Because it's not money is the root of all evil. That's not money is the root of all. It's the love of money. That's taken out of not even just context. It's they just take the word out of it. So a lot of movies you'll see that'll say money is the root of all evil. That's not it. It's the love of money that is the root of all evil. So think about that. You may be there right now. I don't know. Maybe I'm preaching to you right now, and I don't even know it. And then maybe again, everybody in here, is good to go. I don't know. So you only know in your heart. The next one, this one's hard. The next one is proud. Proud. This one's specifically hard for me, and it's in a weird way. This one's hard for me because I don't walk around here, I feel, showing a proud side of myself. I don't feel like that. If I do, somebody let me know. But I don't walk around, I don't feel like feeling proud, but inside I feel proud in a lot of ways. And sometimes that gets to me. It's a way that nobody out here sees. So whenever I get down from here and everything's done and we're wrapping everything up and walking out of here and people are patting me on the back saying, man, that really spoke to me. Man, that's a good sermon. You did a good job and blah, blah, blah. There's this part of me inside that just is filled with this pride, like I did something. And I got to take a step back and realize that I can't get up here. I can't get up here and speak. There are probably some of you out here that would, cower in a corner if they ask you to come up here and say hi. And here I am standing, in the pulpit here, preaching to you guys, people that I do know and people that I don't know. But what that is God giving me that ability. He has given me that ability, and I'm thankful for that I can get up here and that you all allow me to get up here and talk about God's word. And it's not me, and I need to realize that and taking that step back and understanding that it has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with God, everything to do with him. So our pride sometimes gets in our way, and that could be, I think, external, that we could walk around being prideful, but also there's an internal part of us that can be, have that pride as well. So moving on, because, gosh, the time's getting up on me here. The next one is arrogant, seeing ourselves as something special when we deserve to burn in hell. Seeing ourselves as special when we deserve to burn in hell. Just let that one sink in, all right? Because there's very few people in here that will come up to you and say, hey, how you doing? You deserve to burn in hell. That's not something that we do. We don't want to do that. And some people would be very offended by that. But you do deserve that. You do deserve that. And the Bible tells us that. And I hope you believe that. If you don't, talk to me after service. I'll explain to you why you deserve to burn in hell. So it's going to be a weird conversation, and we might be here for a little bit. So arrogance. Drop down to the next one we have is abusive. The more pain we cause others, the better we feel about ourselves. This may be a season in your life. I can think of times in my life where, there were certain people in my life where it made me feel better if they felt worse. And you may be sitting in a season like that in your life right now. Usually it's when we're younger, and you tend to think about bullies and things, that they're picking on you because they want to feel better about themselves. That's the saying. And you can say that sometimes maybe even in your marriage. You can say that maybe even in your work life with a coworker or a boss, that the worse they feel, the better I feel, because misery loves company. And if you're not feeling good about yourself, you want to bring everybody down to that level. So the more pain we cause people, the better we feel about ourselves. We could get into a physical abuse of that, but I think the mental abuse part, that we're abusive more mentally because it's not seen. You don't know what goes on behind the closed door. If you come in here with a black eye, I'm going to know somebody's being abusive to you. But it's the physical and mental, or the mental and emotional abuse that I think is really, really stressed here. So the next one, you kids listen up, disobedient to parents. Disobedient to parents. What this boils down to is a disobedience to all authority. It starts in the home. It starts in the home and then works its way out. This is a cancer that works its way out into the world. And it starts in the home with the parents. And a lot of the reason being, and I'm just going to be brutally honest, is it works its way outward because we ask our children to be obedient when we're not obedient ourselves. Maybe today, maybe sitting here in our comfy chairs in church, you're being obedient to Christ, and then when you leave here and you come home from work, and all you do is complain about your boss, all you do is complain about your coworkers, all you do is complain about your family members, and that's all you do, and your children see you that way. If I want to get any information out on the streets, I can go and talk to every adult, and they'll be like, "I ain't saying anything. I ain't saying a thing to you, copper. I ain't saying anything." But I guarantee if I walk up to a kid and I say, "What's going on in this town? What's going on in your neighborhood?" And maybe I give them $1 or slip them an ice cream cone or something like that. But the kids will tell you. They will tell you because they're very observant. And you guys know that. You'll say something and your kids will repeat it an hour later or a week later or whatever. And you're like, "How did you learn that? How did you know that? Who says that? You must be learning that at school." It's coming from you. It's coming from you. It's coming from what you allow them to hear, what you allow them to do. So let's not be extremely hard on our kids when it comes to this, because a lot of it goes up. This isn't rolling downhill. This is rolling uphill, if you know what I'm saying. So it's going back to you. So think about that. And, that's the fifth commandment, that we're to honor our parents. But parents, you need to be something that is honorable, okay? I'm stressing that to you. You need to be something that is honorable. We're not going to be perfect, but try to get there, okay? Try to get there. Ungrateful is our next one. Ungrateful is not understanding what was sacrificed for us on the cross. Knowing what we deserve, but ignoring it. Knowing what we deserve, but ignoring it. We are ungrateful. We are ungrateful what we've been given. This life sometimes we can see as such a burden. And it's so taxing. It's weighing on us, whether it's mentally, physically, whatever it is. My back hurts. I've got a headache. Fill in the blank. Fill in the blank with whatever problem you've got. We're so ungrateful of what we've been given, when I just said earlier that you deserve to burn in hell, but we've been given this ability to have an eternal life with Christ, and set with him. We have been given the ability to lay all of those problems that we have at his feet. How great is that? That we're able to take all of our problems and give them to somebody. If I asked, one of you, now granted, as a parent, if my kid comes to me and says, this hurts, that hurts, we want to say, if I could take that pain for you, I would. And you would. I know you would as a parent. Maybe some of you wouldn't, but I don't know what kind of kids you got. But, if as selfish as we are, if I don't know you well enough, I'm not going to take that. I'm not going to take that from you. If a complete stranger came up to me, if some homeless person came up to me and was able to give me their addiction, would you take it for them? Would you take their heroin addiction for them if you could, physically could? If it could be handed over to you, you're going to say, well, what's in this for me? What's in this for me? What am I getting out of this in the long run? I'll take your addiction, but after I'm done with the addiction, or after I go to, because I'm stronger than you, and I can get over this addiction, so I'm going to go to rehab, and I'm going to get over the addiction, but then what's in it for me? What's the glory that I get afterward? That's what we're thinking, if you could do it. Not just the simple fact that I'll bear that cross, that I'll bear that burden for you. In this world, we have to love somebody a lot before we'll take something like that for them. You love your kids, you would take anything. Hopefully you love your wife, well enough to take something for them. But outside of that, would you be willing to do that for a complete stranger? And that's what Christ did. That's what Christ did for us. He took it all. He took it all. Our next one is unholy. Unholy. If I were to ask you to describe what unholy meant, because that's what I ran into. I'm not going to lie to you. I had to Google what unholy meant. That's like trying to describe air, Tell me what air means, or tell me what love, give me a description of love. And unholy, I guess I could come up with a bunch of different stuff here, but the description I think that was given here is excellent. It says wrongs against natural things, wrongs against natural things, wrongs against the very things that were set up by God himself. Wrongs against the very things that were set up by God himself. Unholy. And the natural things, which is something we just spoke of, is something of a parent's love. A parent's love for a child is a natural thing. When a child is born, you just have that natural love, that desire to love your child. Our marriages sometimes take a little bit of work. You have that honeymoon phase there, but a child. I remember Melissa saying, I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to love another child, because we have two together. So therefore, she's thinking, I love Alba so much, but how am I going to love this new baby? There's got to be on a scale, there's going to be more love for one or the other. No. God figures out how to work that out. You don't love one more than the other. Maybe some days you do, but it's not a constant thing. So there are these things that are set up in the world that are just natural things. And that's just one example. But unholiness goes against those things that are naturally set up by us, or for us by God. The next one is heartless. A complete lack of feeling or consideration. And this is seen in the lack of any feeling from those who think it's okay to kill an unborn child. And get a little deep on you there, because I've tackled that subject. To kill an unborn child in the womb at any stage of development. Now, we've made some, I could say, progress loosely on that here recently, but anybody that feels that that can happen, and we've discussed that and understand that you can that you're not you can still repent of that sin. But that the heartlessness, and there's no remorse and no sympathy for anyone or anything but themselves, because ultimately that's what you're thinking of. I bring abortion into that again, that's what you're thinking of. You're thinking of yourself, this unwanted child. Once the child's born, you would lay down your life for that child. I don't know of anybody in here, I know everybody pretty well, to that they would lay down their life for their child. If anybody came in here with a gun and said, I'm going to kill your child, you'd say, take me. Take me. If you need a sacrifice for something, take me. But it's so much easier when it's unseen to be able to say, just go ahead and take this. Take this baby. It's unwanted anyways. I didn't want it. It's going to cause me pain, cause me harm. So the heartlessness that comes with that. Moving on to unappeasable. Our constant wanting for more or the next best thing. These lusts for the flesh leave us empty inside in the end. The only true way to be appeased is through Jesus Christ. And I found that in my life. Because there were days, times, seasons, whatever you want to call them, years of your life where you're just looking for the next big thing, the next phone, the next this, that, car, vehicle, you name it. It could be anything, fill in the blank. But we're just so unappeased. Once that wears off and the shininess is gone, we want something else. And we want something more. And I'm not saying that still doesn't, even after you have Jesus Christ in your life, that it doesn't still affect us. Because again, we're sinners. And we continue to want more and more and more. But we need to come to the realization that Christ is the only way. Slanderous, and I apologize because I think I'm probably going to run over, so I hope you guys don't have anything huge planned today. And if you do, sorry. Slanderous. When we can't hold our tongues, we need to pray to God to help us. I've heard people say that in traffic, I just can't help it. I've got to flip them the bird. I've got to yell out the window. I've got to do these things. I just can't help it. Yeah, you can. Take that time and stop. You have the ability to stop, from punching somebody in the face. When you stop at that red light after a word and you got done saying your stuff, you stop yourself from walking up and, going up to their window and beating on it. Maybe you do. And if you do, I suggest you don't do that anymore. But if you have that problem, take that second there, flip that switch off and go to prayer. If you need to pull over and do it, that's fine. If you can drive and pray, great. But being able to hold our tongues, because it's easy to see the negative in things. It's easy to see the negative in things and in others. But we need to, like the verse says, take that plank out of our own eye before we see that splinter in someone else's. And if you don't know what that means, look it up, okay? Look that up. If you've never heard that before, of taking that plank out of your eye before you want to complain and whine about the splinter in someone else's eye. And we have a huge platform for that now. It's easy to be the old keyboard cowboy on the other end and type something up, especially when you're not face-to-face with somebody. Don't be that person. Don't be that person. It's easy to get sucked into that. Huge problem that we have with social media right now. And I won't get into that too much. You know who you are out there. So you portray yourself as somebody on Facebook, and you may have a secret account. You may be a troll out there, and that's all you enjoy doing is just typing away and saying stuff to people and just to get that little bit of a aggravation out of them. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Next one is without self-control. The urges that we have as sinners are unbearable without Christ in our life. And I've been there because this fallen world, it puts something in front of you and it dangles it in front of you, kind of like a carrot in front of a horse. But if you think you can't resist it, you're wrong. You can resist it with God's help. And you may squeak by. You may squeak by a few times of not having self-control, once, twice. But you're a sinner, and it's going to catch up to you, I assure you. So, brutal is the next one. Now, in my 17 years of law enforcement, I've seen some very, very, very brutal things. Very brutal things. A new door opened up for me whenever I became a law enforcement officer. And I never thought of myself as being sheltered, but I'm telling you what, when that door was open and I saw how the world worked, when all the lights go off in the houses and the street lights come on. And I saw how this world acts maybe after dark when everybody's asleep. I felt sheltered. I felt like as if, what did my parents not tell me, And then probably 15 years later, when I became a detective in the Detective Bureau, and I was introduced to internet crimes against children. And I never thought that I could see anything more brutal. And that new door was open for me. I hope that no other doors get open, but I'm expecting one eventually. But 15 years later, the things that I've seen and the things that I've had to deal with, there is an evil in this world, folks. Satan is very active in this world, and if you don't believe that, again, you see me after this, and I'll talk to you and give you stuff to make your stomach turn. There are evils and horrors in this world that an underbelly to this world that nobody knows about, nobody cares to know about, nobody wants to know about. But it's there. It's there. It's in your backyard. It's in your neighborhoods. Some of us may choose not to see it, and then some of us just want to put the blinders on. But it's there. It's there. I promise you, it's there. Not loving good. This is one of those ones that kind of made me stumble when I read it at first, because I think to myself, I love good. Who doesn't love good? Who doesn't love good? But I'm here to tell you that sometimes in our lives, we don't love good. We're sinners, as I've said before. And sometimes that's what we do best, is not love good. Sometimes that's what we do best, and that's just the complete opposite there. Good, and you have your bad. Good and bad. And we're predisposed to be bad. Anybody, I've taken psychology classes with my child development degree that I'm attempting to get. And any psychology class will tell you usually that you're predisposed as a good person. We're born into this world, as a good person. And we just need to build on that. We've lost something as we go back, and we need to build up on that. So most of them will tell you that you are a good person, but I'm here to tell you that you're not. We're in a fallen world, and you are predisposed from the very get-go to be bad. So, treacherous. Treacherous is one of those words we don't use very often, but the first description that comes to my mind, I wrote it down here, is a treacherous path. Don't take that path. It's treacherous. It's one of those words we don't use, but when you hear it, you know to put up your guard. There's probably something down that path that is going to lead to some extreme injury or death. So when we talk about people being treacherous, you probably want to stay away from those folks. Next one is reckless. First thing that comes to mind when I think of reckless is our bodies. We're reckless with our bodies, and that's just one thing. Sex before marriage, unwanted pregnancy with abortion on demand, the food and drugs that we put into our bodies, those are just a few things. We're reckless, and when the time comes and we're laying in that hospital bed, we think, man, I wish I would have treated this gift that God gave me better. See, a lot of us, like I said earlier, you want to say that life sucks. It's hard, it's troubling. I wish it would just all go away. I wish it would end. But when you're laying in that hospital bed, you are reaching and grasping for every little second that you can. I've seen it happen before. I've talked to people that were on their deathbed. And they've lived their whole life just like this, just like all of us, maybe to different extremes. But then when that time comes, they are just so upset with themselves, is the only way I could put it. Angry almost with themselves of the way they've treated that gift that God gave them. Next one is swollen with conceit. Never would I think that we would live in a society where someone was more concerned about how many likes, follows, retweets, etc. that they're going to get, as opposed to helping someone in need. Now, I've seen this firsthand as well, folks. We're quicker to get our phones out start recording something than to go help somebody in trouble. Like I said, I've seen that with my own eyes. I've had to go up and tell people, turn your camera off. There's a dead person right here. What are you doing? What are you doing? I've had to have the fire department come out and hold up big tarps so that people would not film this accident. And you ask them, and they almost don't even know why they're filming it. They don't even know. But that's what they're wanting. They're wanting something to go viral online. They're wanting to send it to WTAP. And they don't even give you anything for it. They just want to say, be able to sit at home when the 6 o'clock news comes on and they can say, I took that video. That may be somebody's mom, sister, brother, aunt, uncle, whatever. It may be nobody that has any family. But it's God's child. We need to think of that. And again, that's just one area there was swollen with conceit. But think about that before you drive by and try to exploit somebody's problems. The worst day may be in their life for your benefit, for your glory. Next one is lovers of pleasure rather than God. And when we're given a choice, it's easy to pick pleasure over God. It's easy. I mean, why wouldn't you? One is fun and pleasurable. And the other one holds you back, right? That's the way we see it. The other one has rules. The other one has rules. All it's waiting to do is just pull those reins back and say, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. God tells you can't do this. God tells you can't do that. Why would I want to do that when I can easily pick pleasure? But what we need to realize, and then if you still have your Bibles open, to Psalm 16:11, or just write it down and look it up next, or after we're done here. Psalm 16:11 says, you make known to me the path of life, and you will fill me with joy in your presence, with eternal pleasures at your right hand. Eternal pleasures right there. So we don't have to choose. All you have to choose is between this world and God. You have to choose that. But if you choose God, you will have, and it says right here, eternal pleasures. You don't have to choose between God and pleasure. You get that for free. It just comes with it. And I'm here to tell you that it is. It's a pleasurable thing. My life has gotten so much better. Am I standing up here, wearing gold and the best clothes and shoes, and my life is just, no. But it's way better than what it was before I accepted Christ. And that's in here and here, just all over, guys. My life is so much better. But you know what? Even if it wasn't, it would all still be worth it. Because I believe what the Bible says. I believe what the Bible says, and that one day, everything will be better. It will be. The next we have is having the appearance of godliness, but denying its power. Having the appearance of godliness, but denying its power. And this should hit, it may be hitting someone here right now, somebody that's wearing a mask. I know we've talked about this before, but maybe somebody in here who's takes communion, has been baptized, maybe gets up and sings the songs real good. In another church, maybe they hoot and holler and, do all these different things, outward expressions. But in here, they have not changed. And that's only something between you and God. Only something that you and God know as to whether it's been changed in here in your heart and soul. And they have that appearance that on the outside that they've got it together, that their form of godliness, they are the mega Christian. They are the one. They've got it all together and they know what they're doing. But when they leave here and they're behind closed doors, they do all of these other things that we've talked about. Having an appearance of godliness but not denying its power. That when the time came and maybe they yuck it up at the office with their buddies, and if their buddies said, what'd you do this weekend? They don't mention a thing about going to church. They don't mention a thing about Jesus. Even if a buddy's having trouble with their marriage, they don't give them good godly advice. They don't want anybody to know about this little secret that they have brewing here in their life. And the next part here, creep into households and capture weak women. You girls think about that. This is not a slam on women. We need to think back we need to think back to what I talked about in the very beginning of when this was written. When was this written? Women were second class. Women really, were not spoke of. There's a lot of scripture in here where women and children were not added to the numbers. When Jesus feeds all those people, that number does not include women and children. So what this is saying, and also it refers to women being way different than what they are now. Women are in the workplace now. Back then, and in generations past, women stayed at home. They were homemakers, and they stayed home with children. So what this is saying is they had a lot more time on their hands. When we talk about in the verse, when it says, let me get to it here. For among them are those who creep into households and capture weak women, burdened with sin and led astray by various passions. I think this is also a calling for us men that I've said before, if you want to lead your household, you need to educate your family. You need to be the head of your household, and you need to have your Bible open, and you need to read it. And when your wife and your kids have questions, and they come to you, you need to have answers for them, and not let your wife be weak, per se. That way, when times come up like this, that they have answers, and you need to have answers as well. So I won't hit on that too much, but again, it's not a slam on you women for being weak. That's just the area that they were talking about, or time that they were talking. So the next area of discussion, which I told you we would get back to, is Jannes and Jambres. They're not mentioned in the Bible by name. Not mentioned in the Bible by name, but they were actually magicians. And other stories that were told outside of the Bible, we were able to determine who they were. But they were the magicians that confronted Moses and denied God's power. And if you're familiar with this story, it is when the plagues were coming, and everybody remember probably, in Bible school and stuff, that when his stick or staff changed into a snake, he threw it down and it became a snake. Well, the magicians were able to do that too. And then when he turned the water into blood, the magicians were able to do that too. And somebody mentioned, it's kind of funny that he turned all that water into blood, and they were having trouble coming up with drinking water. That would be a huge problem. You don't have any drinking water. Well, what did the magicians do? They turned around and made more water into blood, whatever water I guess was left. So I think it would have been more amazing if they would have been able to change the blood back into water. I think that would have been the thing to do, but just making more of whatever they have into blood, I don't think they really helped much. And then there was the plague of frogs. And they were able to do that as well. So you're thinking, wow, this is insane. They're able to mimic all of these things that Moses was doing. But then the next one was gnats. They weren't able to do that one. God finally said, nope, we're done, shutting her down. And it's just interesting that these guys opposed Moses, and eventually God shut them down. And we are told here in verse 9, but they will not get very far, for their folly will be plain to all, as was that of those two men. And we're told at the end of verse 8, avoid such people. Verse 5, avoid such people. Now, just ending on this is coming to the end here. Um, think about who you're surrounding yourself with. It says, do not follow these people. Think of who you're surrounding yourself with. I had to walk away from a lot of my friendships when I became a police officer. There were things that I did before I became a police officer that I could not do anymore. I could not be that kind of person, and I had to change my life, my lifestyle. And I urge you to put a filter, run everybody through a filter that you have, that you surround yourself with. And it may even be family members. Now, I'm not saying disown everybody, because we're called to people like that. Jesus surrounded himself with people like that. And I'm not saying disown them and never talk to them again, but we need to be careful how deep that we get with these people. Because as sinners ourselves, that sin can start attaching itself to us. Those pleasures start to look appealing to us, and the next thing you know, you're waist deep in something that you had previously just gotten yourself out of. So be mindful of that. Be careful of that. Don't leave those people behind completely, because you want to be a disciple to them and tell them about God's word.